right, Nate, looking at the Western Conference Game 5 here on Wednesday night, the only series that went 3-1 as the Dubs were able to take over at the very, 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 very end of the fourth quarter there and finally get a lead in that game to pull things out and win by a few free throws and a few garbage points there at the end. 101-98. So definitely, one thing I thought in that Game 5 was, and it wasn't totally wrong, it was just the opposite happened. The game theory was if the Dubs are going to, be polished on offense, then the Grizzlies, who are still a competent team, especially on offense without Ja, the way they move the ball, they're going to come along and hit a bunch of threes, and things are going to open up that way for them, where they're going to get a bunch more threes as they did during the regular season. None of that happened because the Grizzlies actually were like, we'd like to mess this one up instead because we know we can't hang with the other team. There was a bunch of other stuff, man. Mike Brown, had to be the coach. Steve Kerr had COVID. He's probably going to miss Game 5 as well, not traveling with the team. So that was a huge storyline and thing that just sort of changed at the very end. For Draymond Green, it was an emotional game as Adrian Payne super sadly passed away, his former Michigan State brother and teammate. So that was something else that he was dealing with. Didn't even really want to talk to the media afterwards. He was still polite about it. It wasn't in the headspace to do so. So there was a lot of weirdness, man, in that one. We now find out Ja is out for this series. It's a bone bruise. So that also dispels any weird, silly notion that any fan might have had that Jordan Poole was able to injure his knee by grabbing it. That's not how a bone bruise happens, right? So either way, all that behind us now, we are in Game 5, and we know what this series looks like the rest of the way as long as it goes, which is no Ja Morant and the sort of starless Grizzlies at this point. What was that for real? It was what we saw in Game 4, a bit of a fluke in terms of the Dubs not playing well on offense because of the weirdness around that. Either way, we now look at the Dubs in this one -4 as they head back to Memphis for Game 5, a total of 218.5. Where do you start with this one, Nate?
Yeah, a lot of interesting angles. I mean, I would like to try to play Nostradamus here and just say take Memphis plus 150 to extend the series and bet before this game Dubs in 6 at plus 210 and then cash both those tickets because I don't really see Golden State closing this out on the road, Morant or not, because he's out. But Steven Adams is in, and he kind of changed the nature of this series, where the Grizz were getting pounded in the paint, pounded on the boards, and it pretty much evened out since he made his return. And I don't know if it's sustainable to hold the Warriors 0 for 15 from 3 again, but Klay Thompson doesn't look like Klay Thompson. That eruption for 53% three-point shooting in the first game in Golden State, that might be unsustainable. That was just kind of the Warriors avalanche going off. And I guess shame on us for saying we liked an over because we expected that to repeat itself. Instead, like you said, Memphis with their star out, they just buckled down on every possession as they did all season and played excellent defense. But the Warriors defense too good to let them really run away with this game. I think we see another lower scoring game. I think there's definitely a correlation here, like we were saying in that Wolves game when it was in that Wolves series in Memphis, correlation between the Grizz winning at home and going under. Seen it all season in the playoffs, the last 4 games, 3-1 straight up at home, 3-1 to the under. And they have a 103 defensive rating in that span. Not shooting particularly well, though. That's the thing. That's why there's not gonna likely an over here. They're shooting 33% from deep. They were 9 for 35 in Game 4. Dylan Brooks, really, really ill-advised offense, trying to carry the team without Ja. I mean, 2 for 9 from 3, but it was a bad 2 for 9. And Triple J, same thing, 0 for 7 from 3. I mean, maybe you want to play more conservatively and take Memphis plus 4 because there is a chance they cough this up at the end again. But I think, they're learning on the fly here. They will be able to close out a close game eventually, I think. Tyus Jones, really nice steadying presence, who, while he doesn't have the explosion and the ability to finish in the clutch like Ja, I think he'll keep their offense on track here. And if you do just bet that Memphis money line and the under, like I'm saying with the correlation, for this game, it's plus 350. So, I mean, that's the same thing as expecting a win here and then Dubs win in the next game. Both are getting you big return on your money. And that's the way I would kind of game theory this.
Yeah, interesting. And you want to talk about ill-advised threes from Dylan Brooks, which, by the way, shout out whoever came up with the nickname Villain Brooks. That was pretty good. Either way, like that last three, that attempt, that was a step back 26-footer to attempt to tie it up was just, I mean, talk about ill-advised, man. Like that's one dude where you're like, yo, no, this whole thing now is now predicated on us taking good shots, the best one possible, and basically being the San Antonio Spurs right now. We don't have the killers to go at you otherwise. So whatever, that be what it was. I think it's interesting. This team has 104 defensive rating without Ja Morant this season versus the 112 that they have with him. That's wild. And there's I tried to really dissect the teams that they played in the 24 games they played without Ja in the regular season. It's like it was a pretty even mix of like good and bad. There wasn't even really any situational weird moments of like, oh, Jokic sat or whatever. It was like, nah, they just won, dude. They even really impressively beat that Phoenix game where they didn't even have their backups in that game. They had their third stringers, right? And so I think there's still a bit of the, to your point, like I don't love the Dubs in this one. The one thing I do feel for the Dubs is they didn't play well last game, and they know that they walked out, they squeaked it out. That you could very well make the case they shouldn't have won that game, and they just as easily could have lost game one, and they could be down 3-1 with a couple of differences. I still think they had game one in control, but game four, they didn't have control of game four at any point, and everybody in the stadium was waiting for that eruption. It didn't come. They were down 10 in the fourth quarter. So my point is I think that's almost like a loss for them in the way that they're going to be looking at this one. They are much better on offense at home in the playoffs right now than they are on the road. They're also better at defense though at home than they are on the road, especially in the playoffs and all season. They were just so good on defense at home. I still think that with Steven Adams, interestingly enough, I'm just going to throw this out there because it's an anomaly. Steven Adams did play in this game in a way they tried to slow it down and chop it up, but this pace was 104. So it's not, and the other games were played at about 102 or so average in the first three before this one. So I still agree with you that, the Steven Adams is 27 minutes in this game. And the fact that then you got Kyle Anderson playing 22 and who is the other one I was looking for here? Brandon Clark down to 11, meaning, they're not playing nearly as many of those small ball lineups is the point. I think that's probably continuing to be what we see from them. That's the only way that they can win right now is a little bit more in and out. They were also just getting murdered on the in the paint and on the boards in a way that to a team against the Warriors that they should have been better than. Yeah. And that was obviously a direct result of Steven Adams not being in. I think, with him back now, I do lean under in this, but I think I would like to get a bit more, if maybe get up the line there for Memphis. I would feel better with them at about +8.5, to be honest with you, because even if they do, like it was a 3-point game after they were down 10, in the fourth in this last game for the Dubs, that could easily have been 5 points if they're a little bit closer. It just scares me a little bit more. And as we were talking about, the other game that we're going to be watching on Wednesday night in the Bucks and the C's, I personally also felt the same way about the Bucks losing by less than 10 points. Which you also agreed with. So you said Celts 1-10. I would say I also like Bucks all teased up to about 9.5 with the other dog here in terms of Memphis teased up to 9.5 as well. You could also consider Memphis coming out really hot and strong in the first quarter. But I think we're going to learn a lot about the Warriors team we're going to see in this first half, because I don't think they're going to be capable of going down double digits in this one and making the same type of comeback that they did in the last game.
No, because they're not winning the battle in the paint. Like you said, it was 59-43 in paint points the first three games, and then they lose that by 14 with Steven Adams in there, the strongest man in the NBA, as most refer to him. I don't think it's, and they're only shooting 32% from three in the series now. They have that one spike game that's really pulled the average up. Otherwise, they're way below 30%. Clay, again, does not look like Clay. He's 0 for 7 from 3, 6 for 20 from the field, had his shit punched a couple times. And without Ja, the reason I like the under so much is that, 16 Warriors turnovers, only 11 points off turnover for Memphis. Like with Ja in there, that's like 23, 25 points right there. Fast. 13 fast break points for Memphis. They're not going to be scoring as quickly. They're going to, like you said, they're going to look for better shots. You're like, wow, look at that pace. It was up to 106. That's because Dylan Brooks is chucking. Like, he's got to calm down and run the offense. I'm sure they're going to talk about that behind closed doors.
Don't forget Triple J 0 for 7 with his own fair share of pull up on the fast break 3-point baloney.
Yeah, they don't need all that. With a little more poise and experience, this game was locked up for them. And I think that they can at least remain close down the stretch. I do like your idea of a teaser shocker, right? I like the tease here. I like the safe play. But I would just think Memphis +8 in the total here at 222. Maybe you can get it when it dips up a little bit, but right now it's just on the way down because people saw no offense in this last game. And the Grizz continuing to just guard that 3-point line because you live with Steph Curry making a bunch of floaters or throwing a bunch of deft passes in the lane. You don't live with Steph hitting from deep. And right now he doesn't have the other Splash Brother in terms of being able to make them pay as often. Yeah. So that Warriors team is getting a little easier to defend as the series wears along. What we saw with the Nuggets, 4 overs followed by an under, and maybe Memphis has started to figure it out a little bit too. It's just a question of whether they'll be able to execute down the stretch.
100% agree with all that. I also, I still like Steph, by the way. I still would consider props. 32 points for him, 8 of 9 from the field because he was getting into the lane. He had 8 assists as well as he's kicking out to open shooters. Only 10 of 25 from the field, but, like we said, 4 of 14 is out of character for him from 3. It's still 4 3-pointers. It's still 12 points off threes and then 10 other made field goals with 9 free throw attempts. So if he's going to take what the defense gives him, I think for the rest of the way, we can find pool games that we like, especially when he's at home. This road game need to close. If they do that, it's because Steph Curry is leading them there with his points and his scoring, especially because, like you said, his other Splash Bro isn't quite the same yet. Until we see it from him consistently, we're not going to be able to believe in it or rely on it. But I still believe in Steph no matter what, wherever he is. And I think he knows he's got a load to carry in this one and will consider taking his props in this game as well. Last point to the under. Andrew Wiggins, got to give him a shout out actually for playing well, very well. 40 minutes, 53% from the field. He did only go 1 of 5 from 3, but he's taking good threes and he's got 10 boards, leading this team in rebounding in this series, and just hustle plays and playing really, really well on defense with his own super impressive individual defensive rating. So I just wanted to say that the fact that they're able to play him, those 40 minutes, because he did have a 93 individual defensive rating, you're going to continue to see that from him. And I think he's going to be huge for them with the amount of wings that you're going to see thrown at him and the Warriors from Memphis now. So that is all the time we have for you guys in this one. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to follow along with us as we bring you each and every playoff game. And until we see you next, happy betting.